If you recently started to learn how to play the violin, or if you played as a kid, you may already know that beginners are often encouraged to use tapes on the fingerboard to help with finger placement so you can play your very first songs. In today's video, we're going to talk about why I'm not a fan of using those tapes and how you can learn your notes without using them. Hello and welcome. I'm Aryadna, and this is Mindful Strings, where I help you learn the violin on your own time, love your every practice, and shave years of a violin learning journey by sharing what I wish I knew when I first started. The violin is certainly one of the more complex instruments. It doesn't have frets, keys, or buttons, so you're kind of on your own when it comes to finding the notes on the fingerboard. Ear training is an important element of learning how to play the violin because if you can hear pitch and discern the differences in tune or out of tune pitch, you will have a much easier time playing the violin. Now, if you feel less than confident about your ability to discern intonation and sing in tune, fear not. You can still learn how to play the violin, but I think it might be fun in the process to also improve your ability to hear better. In other words, connect your ear to your voice, to your fingertips. So one of the reasons I don't love using tapes is because they're actually not really accurate. It's important to know the layout of the fingerboard in half steps and whole steps. A half step is the narrowest interval, so the narrowest distance between two notes, and on violin it's expressed by basically having two fingers right up against each other. And a whole step is the next interval up. So for example, going from A to B is a whole step. And in between them, there is a note, which is a B flat or an A sharp. In the row of notes, there are a couple of spots, which is E to F and B to C, that are half steps, even though the letter name of the note is changing. And that is reflected on the violin as well. And so basically, when you put these tapes down, you might end up putting your fingers kind of in the proximity to the note, and it might even sound in tune, but you're not actually training your hand to develop proper shape when it comes to finding the notes. I am very empathetic to a beginner who may be struggling with knowing exactly when a note sounds in tune or not. So I will not say never ever use tapes. There may be a situation in which case it's the only thing that is really helpful and going to help you progress. However, before you jump in to adding the tapes, I suggest you try these few things. Let's talk today about finding the notes on the A string. A lot of the times, the beginner songs you're going to learn are going to be in the key of A major and will involve using 1, 2, 3, or all 4 fingers on the A string. Very often, this means that your hand will resemble this shape when the first finger is about an inch or so away from the nut, which is the bottom of the fingerboard. Second finger is here. Third finger is right next to the second finger, and then the pinky is here. So that's the shape of your hand in A major, which gives you open A, first finger B, second finger C sharp, third finger D, and fourth finger E. Although very often you're going to use the E string instead of the pinky in the very beginning. So instead of jumping into that, I actually usually walk my students through finding B and then finding C natural. If you set up the shape of your left hand properly before playing, and in first position that is, you should kind of end up with your first finger right over the spot where B goes. So if you have your wrist straight, thumb pointing up on the other side of the neck, first finger ever so slightly pulled back, you will see that this knuckle of the index finger kind of lines up with the bottom of the fingerboard. So I'm talking about this digit here. Now, I'm only curling up these fingers for the sake of clearly demonstrating the first finger, so don't do that, but that is the sound of the whole step between A and B. So if I ever do put tapes on my students' instrument, I will frequently do that just for the first finger if they're having trouble getting their hand all the way down to first position. Typically, this is younger students, but sometimes doing this can be helpful to get an adult going as well. So if you strongly feel that you are a completely lost cause without tape, I recommend using something like this, which is a very, very thin washi tape. The tape that I frequently see people use in violin is quite a bit wider than this, and again, it doesn't help with accuracy. I believe this is 1/16 of an inch. Because it's washi tape, it comes on really easily and comes off really easily without really leaving gluey residue on your fingerboard. So I've been using these for years and it works really well. Frankly, I don't understand why anyone uses anything else, because it's kind of a nightmare to take off those thick gluey tapes off someone's fingerboard and then have to use rubbing alcohol to really get in there and clean off the stickiness. But anyway, if you are interested in an instruction on how to place that first finger tape down, let me know down in the comments below and I will make a tutorial about it. For now, let's talk more about finding that first finger B. So if you've seen my last video in which I talk about how to tune the violin, we were using an online tuner using Google. And so if you are in doubt of your own ear and you're not sure exactly what A to B sounds like, go ahead and use that tuner. Tune your A. Try your best to position your left hand the way I'm describing. And just go ahead and place the first finger down on the A string and see what the tuner says. It will help train your ear. I would be also curious if you can try and sing the A right after playing it. If you have no trouble hearing and replicating that sound, wonderful. This is going to be a smooth journey for you. If you are having trouble, like I said, fear not, you will get there, I promise you. So as you become comfortable with finding your B, let's talk about finding C. As I mentioned earlier, B to C is actually a half step. If you can confidently find your B with the first finger, to find C natural, all you're going to do is put that second finger right next to first. So it's going to look something like this. You can even use the first finger as kind of a ramp to slide the second finger along until it lands onto the string. It's worth noting that the shape of my first finger is pretty rounded, so don't hold it in such a way that makes your knuckles take on this square shape. We want kind of a rounded shape with the second knuckle resting right around the nut, and then the second finger goes right next to it. Make sure your thumb is pointing up and is roughly opposite your first and second fingers. You want to make sure you avoid this. You don't want to see this thumb lying down and your wrist going up this way. Having the wrist in anything other than the straight position will affect where your fingers land and will make it more difficult to find the notes in tune. So let's go ahead and hear what that sounds like. You've got your A, you've got your B, and you've got your C natural. So I have all my students start off with that, and it's a lot less intimidating because at this point you're using the first finger as your guide for the second finger. Let's go ahead and try this again together. Straighten your wrist, make sure your thumb is pointing up, line up the second knuckle of the first finger with the very bottom of the fingerboard, play your A, see if you can sing it. Next, to find that C sharp that you will be using in your very first songs, what you're going to do is now move the second finger one finger width up the string. What that's going to look like is something like this. So it's as if you are skipping the finger spot here and just shifting the finger a little bit up. This is what a half step sounds like, going from C to C sharp. C, C sharp. One of the reasons I also like to make sure that people learn C natural first is because very often in beginner books for violinists, what you'll see is ABC, there is a key signature that has a C sharp, but no one really talks about it a lot. And so when it comes to playing things that don't have a C sharp, all of a sudden you're confused and you're always putting that second finger high because you actually haven't practiced or associated the fact that a C is actually right next to B when it's not a sharp. One of the songs in the curriculum that I've built for my students is called Sleepy Bumblebee, and it will be part of my online violin course, which, by the way, the waitlist for that is open. So if you'd like to be in the know about it, please go ahead and click that link in the description box below to get on the waitlist. I also have a free 15-minute Get Better at Violin guide, so check it out. So that song goes through playing A, B, C, and C sharp. Now we're getting somewhere. You are building your vocabulary on the A string, and here's a spoiler, this will apply to other strings beautifully as well. So A is just a great place to start if you are still learning how to read music as well, which I do think is important to do kind of at the same time so that your tool set is full and you are set up for success. And finally, let's talk about finding the D. Third finger D is going to be a whole step up from C natural and a half step up from C sharp. You got your A, B, C natural, C sharp, and D. You can use the second finger as a guide once again. Slide your third finger down. I'll show you a different perspective here. So here's the layout: A, B, C natural, C sharp, D. Now, even with these instructions, there is still room for error. So I do recommend that you use that online tuner as a guide to make sure that you are hitting the notes in tune in case your ear is not feeling confident about it. Because if you smush the fingers too close together, there is a way that you're going to play the notes out of tune. So you just have to kind of practice and listen carefully. For those of you who have not seen the video about tuning your violin, the tuner I used, I simply Googled violin online tuner Google. I'm sure you could use a different combination of words, and it literally just pops up at the top of the page. You don't even have to go into any website. But of course, there's also plenty of apps with tuners that you can use. Let's go ahead and practice up to the D. Now I will say there is another trick to double check your D, and that is by playing it together with the open D string or playing them one after the other. This may feel advanced, but I still encourage you to try it just to see how they sound, because when you're playing a perfect octave, it should almost sound like you're playing one note instead of two. If you hear any sort of dissonance, it means that the notes are out of tune. For this to work, of course, your D string does need to be perfectly in tune. Let me know if it would be helpful for you if I made videos to go through the other strings with the same exercises. If you have any questions, please drop them down below as well. Happy mindful practicing, and I'll see you next time.